Hello, and welcome back to another episode of WRD Reads. We are on to Chapter 13, Nicholas Flamel. Getting into the guts of the story. And it said Chapter 13 of 17, so it is... We're getting close. A few more exciting things to do before we head down into the pit. To the chamber past Fluffy. First, of course, have to say this is a commentated reading. This is not a clean reading. I will be discussing the chapter as I am reading it. And it is not for those who have not already read the books. If you've already read if you have not read the books, go watch go get the books yourself or get the audiobooks, find Fry or Jim Dale even. That's the correct emotion for them. Stephen Fry, I really like. Jim Dale struggles, or I struggle with Jim Dale. A lot of people like Jim Dale. I like him in Pete's Dragon, as the bad guy in Pete's Dragon, but as far as reading Harry Potter, I don't know. I'll need to make a video about that someday, about comparing the different readers, and I'll have to try to find some more out there. I still think that Bibliobabuli is the best after Stephen Fry and my own. But that's just me, because my clean readings I'm reading out in nature, usually out on the beach, except for Platform 9 3/4, which I read between lampposts 9 and 10 on a train station. Sorry for the itchy face. Facial hair tends to do that, but yes. Hopefully you can enjoy the background music. We've got some copyright-free Tavern Inn music, fantasy medieval music, no copyright, going in the background as just to make this a little bit better. Reduce the noise. I need to wet my whistle. Yep. And one last thing before we get into it, the background. This thing is, of course, AI created. This one was created on Perchance. It's a great free AI image creator. It's not the highest quality consistently compared to CArt or many of the other ones that you have to pay for. But like I said, it's free and it's pretty much unlimited generating, and you can create your own page, your own personalized page for generating things. So you can put in your own presets through drop-down menus if you know how to code. And it's really awesome. I really appreciate it for the mental health issues that AI art has been beneficial for. But along in the midst of trying to create images, I created about 75, 80. I kept 75 or 80 out of a couple hundred. This is the one I decided to go with. One I decided not to go with. Nicholas Flamel. So that's what this is. The prompt was 14th century alchemist Nicholas Flamel in his shop, action scene. And it gave me a gun. Nicholas Flamel with a gun. Not quite 14th century, but it is an action scene and it's funny. And so I decided to share that with you real quick. But that is not why we're here. We are here to read the chapter of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, chapter 13, Nicholas Flamel. Dumbledore had convinced Harry not to go looking for the Mirror of Erised again. I wonder how much well, we got how much convincing it took. He's like, I urge you not to go looking for it again. Men who dwell, does not bode to, not do well to dwell on dreams. Not bode well to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Something along those lines is what Dumbledore said to convince Harry not to go looking for the Mirror of Erised again. And for the rest of the Christmas holidays, the invisibility cloak had stayed folded at the bottom of his trunk. Folded. He took very good care of it. That's not just stuffed on the bottom of his trunk, like so many other things end up getting stuffed. This is folded. Harry wished he could forget what he'd seen in the mirror as easily. You need the inverse of Neville's remember-all. You need a forget-all. That sounds like a bad pill, forget-all. Sounds like a thing in Doctor Who. In Martha Jones's, I guess technically third episode would be, right? Yeah. Martha Jones's third episode of Doctor Who. The one where she plays her cousin. So it's actually not Martha Jones, but still Agia Freeman. And then go up to the moon, and then we go back to Shakespeare. But no, and then so wait. We go to the moon to Shakespeare's the next one. We go first to New Earth, right? Or do we do Shakespeare and then New York? Yeah, 15 times new. To the lower city, where we meet the face of Beau again. And he gives his life to save the city. And we'll cherish the old rugged cross. Yeah. If you know the episodes, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know them, I'm sorry you had to go through that. But let's continue on. That's why I said this is not just a clean reading of the story. He started having nightmares, horrible nightmares. Over and over again, he dreamed about his parents disappearing in a flash of green light. Poof! Disappearing in a flash of green light. Excuse me. The flash of light that, wow, it's right there. The other big old wizard, not Dumbledore, Gandalf. Oh my goodness. It's just, when it's Gandalf, that Gandalf in the book causes a flash of light when Bilbo puts on the ring and turns invisible. It's because not in the movie. In the movie, he just goes poof, and Gandalf is shocked. In the book, no. Gandalf knows what's going on. He knows what's going to happen. He knows Bilbo is going to put on the ring, and he decides to add a little flair. It's cool. Darn. My glasses are not sitting right today. Or at the moment, it is rather obnoxious and unfortunate and irritating. And I don't think you want to be staring at me without my glasses on. Look at those puffy eyes for never sleeping. Hardly ever. I'm a vampire. Join us on Bibliobabuli currently for Dracula. Oh, Dracula. But yes, he dreams about his parents disappearing in a flash of green light. The green of the traffic light. And while a high voice cackled with laughter, the screeching of tires, the brakes, and the screams as there's the car crash, because James and Lily died in a car crash. A car crash? Yep. You see, Dumbledore was right. That mirror could drive you mad, said Ron, when Harry told him about these dreams. Yep. Because it's madness to have dreams about your parents dying. No, don't think so. It is my greatest nightmare. A nightmare that I had. Thankfully, I do still have both of my parents, but I had a nightmare in which my mom... We were up in a vacationing in some mountains in a cabin or something, and in the dream. And we were getting ready to leave at the end of the vacation. I was in my dad's truck, and I guess it was just my mom. I guess for some reason my sister wasn't there. Or just happened to also get out of the vehicle. But I jumped out of the truck to go back to get something, then Mom backed up to go back to get me, and then backed up off the cliff. And so I see the car backing up and then go up and down from the cliff. And my mom waving goodbye, just like in the cartoons. And then it repeated. Oh, I was like 5th or 6th grade. Oh, that is my worst nightmare. And it's not the scariest. It's just seeing your mom drive back off a cliff and it repeating. Hermione, who came back the day before term started, only one day before, which is, I guess it's kind of typical. The Hogwarts train usually comes one day before the fall term starts, so it should come one day before the winter term starts. Winter, spring. Hey! She was torn between the horror at the idea of Harry being out of bed, roaming the school 3 nights in a row. If Filch had caught you! And disappointment that he hadn't at least found out who Nicholas Flamel was. And Hermione, how did you not figure it out either? You're the one that does all the studying, that spends all your time in the library with huge books that nobody else would read. You're the one that should have figured this out. Not Hermione, not Ron, you. Wait. No, I said that wrong, didn't I? I said not Hermione. I said it the way the movie quotes it at the end there. It should be, not Harry, not Ron, you, Hermione. Oi, come on, Hermione. They had almost given up hope of ever finding Flamel in a library book, even though Harry was still sure he'd read the name somewhere. Nick and we all could easily find books on Nicholas Flamel in our public library. Hermione, why didn't you, during the Christmas break, go to your local public library, your local Muggle library, and look to see if there was anything on Nicholas Flamel there? If there just happened to be, if he happened to have a crossover. That would have been, or if somehow some wizarding books managed to make it into a public library, which not surprise me in England or anywhere in Europe, or the east of the US, even. And the South American library got burned, unfortunately. I don't remember where and when. Huge, huge library fire and huge amounts of history lost. Once Tom had started, they were back to skimming through books for 10 minutes during their breaks. 10-minute breaks. Be mindful on those 10-minute breaks, because if you don't get back within that 10 minutes, you could get written up. Like I did when I first watched Harry Potter. Well, when I second went in to watch Harry Potter, because I was working at the movie theater. First time was Neville trying to fly, and it was like, no. Second time was the chess match at the end, and the big reveal. And I got hooked and stayed past my 10-minute break, got written up. And then once I clocked out that night, I went and got a ticket for the movie. And then the next day I had no work, so I watched it twice in a row. So I watched it 3 times in a row after getting the reveal, because it's just hooked, line and sinker. And sunk. Okay. Harry had even less time than the other two. Less than the 10 minutes. Oh, no. It's, despite being the same paragraph, it's different. Because Quidditch practice had started again. Now, new paragraph, even though we're talking about the same thing we were doing in the previous sentence, which was in the previous paragraph, which was unrelated to the stuff that was in the rest of that paragraph. Well, kind of transitioning, but I would have moved that previous sentence down. Wood was working the team harder than ever. Even the endless rain, well, I guess because you go by person, the subject matter, since we're talking about Harry was being discussed in the previous grouping of that paragraph, and now Wood is a new character coming in, so he gets a new paragraph. I guess that's the way it goes. Even the endless rain that had replaced the snow couldn't dampen his spirits. Wouch. And it's January, and there's already no snow, and it's getting rain. Ouch. That's quite miserable. The Weasleys complained that Wood was becoming a fanatic. Wood has always been a fanatic. That's all Wood has ever been. Because if it has been so long since they've won, and there's some other things, Carlin Brothers goes into it a little bit more because they are actually taking notes. I'm going just straight off as I'm reading without any extra notes, other than listening to the chapters over and over again, with different people discussing them, commentating and reading. But no notes, no written notes. They take notes. And so they can pull all the stuff together to explain how Wood is actually probably, in all likelihood, an absolutely terrible Quidditch player. And I think that includes going into the future after he's left Hogwarts and he's just a reserve on the practice team for Puddlemere United, I think it is. Reserve on the practice team. And here he is, the team captain. And Gryffindors go 7 years without winning the cup. Not all of those, not all of those were Wood leading, because I guess it was only last year that he was captain. And even if, maybe not, but if he wasn't captain last year, then he was just so boisterous that he gave speeches and acted like that anyways, and so that's why the twins know Wood's speech by heart, and because it was only just a few words. This is it, the big one, the one we've all been waiting for. Yeah. So yeah, we know Wood is a fanatic, but Harry was on Wood's side for some reason. Ah, yes. If they won their next match against Hufflepuff, they would overtake Slytherin in the House Championship for the first time in 7 years. Okay. Craziness. And in order for all of that, how is all this working? How is the point systems working, the victories? Because there's not enough games. We're not getting enough games. We hardly get any Hufflepuff and almost no Ravenclaw in this book. I mean, nobody even gets sorted into Ravenclaw, at least verbally mentioned being sorted into Ravenclaw. And only Hannah Abbott and Lavender. No, not Lavender. I always do this. The second person sorted, Hannah Abbott, and there's Belchley, and it's the problem of it doing in reverse. Abbott, Hannah, Abercrombie. That's what it is, isn't it? No. Something. It doesn't matter. That was quite a few chapters ago. The first time in 7 years. And Charlie Weasley was on the team during some of those 7 years. Maybe even Bill. So how could they have been so bad for so long? There must have been some extenuating circumstances. Some things that happened. Injuries, or just bad luck, or just having a really, really bad seeker for those 7 years. But wasn't Charlie's seeker? I think Charlie played seeker. I think it was either Charlie or Bill. Must have been Charlie. Because he's off with dragons now, so you'd kind of want somewhat of being a good flyer if you're going to deal with dragons. At least according to Harry and Goblet of Fire. It's a good way to deal with that dragon. Quite apart from wanting to win, Harry found that he had fewer nightmares when he was tired out after training, or he was just so exhausted he did not remember them, or Voldemort was exhausted too. Then, during one particularly wet and muddy practice session, Wood gave the team a bit of bad news. Oh, forgive me for that. Oh, I got Neville's toad caught in my throat again. I forgot to refill that. He'd just gotten very angry with the Weasleys, who kept dive-bombing each other and pretending to fall off their brooms. Why would you be that like that during practice, guys? Come on. Take the game slightly seriously. Just a little bit. So here, I'm definitely on Woods' side. Will you stop messing around? He yelled. Oh, sorry, he yelled. Will you stop messing around? That's exactly the sort of thing that will lose us the match. Sorry. To get close to the microphone, because he's yelling, so it's got to be a whisper, you know. Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire? Dumbledore said calmly. We're always going to do things like that. Snape's refereeing this time, and he'll be looking for any excuse to knock points off Gryffindor. George Weasley really did fall off his broom at these words. I wonder how far he fell. And I guess if they were... Well, we'll find out here. Snape's refereeing, he spluttered through a mouthful of mud. So he fell pretty good. He took a pretty good dive there. When's he ever refereed a Quidditch match? Yes, because we all know Snape is such a huge Quidditch fan. And all his jealousy of James for his success on the Quidditch pitch. Right? That's why Snape didn't like James. Right, Lupin, right. He's not going to be fair if we might overtake Slytherin. Yep, that's quite possible. The rest of the team landed next to George to complain too. That took him a bit. Took him a fair few seconds to come down and land after that, to follow. It's not my fault, said Wood. We've just got to make sure we play a clean game, so Snape hasn't got an excuse to pick on us. Yeah. Which was all very well, thought Harry, but he had another reason for not wanting Snape near him while he was playing Quidditch. Ow, my skull! Oh, who's that? Hey, Percy, who's that teacher talking to Professor Quirrell? Oh, that's Professor Snape. He's head of Gryffindor. He's head of Slytherin House. He teaches potions, but everyone knows it's the dark arts he fancies. He's been after Quirrell's job for years. And then Nearly Headless Nick comes up. No, I haven't watched these movies a million times. After vowing to never be a part of Harry Potter when it all got started, I am very much eating those words. I gave into the phenomenon wholly. And it's just going to get worse. It's going to get more. We're going to do something more. We got something new in the plans. A collab coming up. That's going to start over. But actually get more consistent and get through this and not 3 years for one book of just what I've posted. I think it's literally taken me like almost 4 years to get this far. So we're gonna do a collab with Bibliobabuli and go weekly. Chapter by chapter. Deep dives. Deeper than I'm going even. That's the crazy thing. You think I'm going deep now. Wait till we get Bibliobabuli teamed up. Oh yeah. Oh, there's the announcement. There's your announcement. If you made it into the middle of this, you have the announcement of what is coming up in the unknown distant future, unknown point in time. We got some background things to figure out, logistics of how to make it all work, setups and things. And figuring out when will be both available on opposite ends of the country and with me with limited electricity. But I've found some ways of getting around that in some manners, some forms. Okay. Yeah. The rest of the team hung back to talk to one another as usual at the end of practice, but Harry headed straight back to the Gryffindor common room, where he found Ron and Hermione playing chess. Chess was the only thing Hermione ever lost at. Something Harry and Ron thought was very good for her. Something to bring down her ego. Because chess is not just something you can memorize. Chess requires planning, imagination, theory, options, planning out different options, and it takes a very complex mind. Hermione's brilliant, but she's, like Luna says, she's relatively simple still. Brilliant, but simple. Uncomplex. Unimaginative. But, of course, they wouldn't have gotten far without Hermione. Very, very true. They would not have survived without Hermione. If Hermione hadn't survived that troll, the wizarding world would not have survived. Because Harry would not have survived without Hermione. Facts. Absolute facts. Don't talk to me for a moment, said Ron, when Harry sat down next to him. I need to concentrate. So Ron is still challenged against Hermione. Or at least he's still putting in that much practice and focus, that much effort into it. Which makes a lot of sense. He's very focused. He takes chess very, very seriously. He caught sight of Harry's face. Blah! What's the matter with you? You look terrible. Yeah, well, that's a nice thing to say to somebody. Speaking quietly so that no one else would hear, Harry told the other two about Snape's sudden desire to be a Quidditch referee. Don't play, said Hermione at once. Say you're ill, said Ron. Pretend to break your leg, Hermione suggested. Really break your leg, said Ron. Wow. Do they have any clue how important this is? No, they don't. I can't, said Harry. There isn't a reserve seeker. There's not a reserve seeker. If I back out, Gryffindor can't play at all. Because, for some reason, you're not able to find an alternative, a replacement player. Or reschedule the match, even. I mean, that might not help much. Snape would probably still play, or still referee if they rescheduled the match. But, I mean, if they could find a replacement seeker, who would it be? And why had that person not played previously? And how bad would they be? At that moment, Neville toppled into the common room. Not the Great Hall, not hopping into the Great Hall, but toppling into the common room. How he managed to climb through the portrait hole, because it's not just a passageway, it is a hole you have to climb up into and then down out of. He opened the portrait on the wall, high on the wall, 2, 3 probably about 3 feet off the ground, where you will find a hole in the wall. Not on the floor, just a hole in the wall that you have to climb up into. Can you imagine McGonagall doing that? It is the most ridiculous entryway. Why, JK? Why? Why'd you have to make it a hole that has to be climbed into? That is not handicap accessible. Well, Hogwarts is not handicap accessible. All those stairs, 142 flights of stairs, 142 staircases. And no, to the Carlin brothers who said, "Oh, you can remember it by I love you, 1, 4, 3, and then they just subtract 1. It's the number of letters in I love you. 1, 4, 3, subtract 1, 1, 4, 2. No, there's so much easier ways, less complicated ways to remember it than that. It's 42. It's 142, the ultimate answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. Come on, Carlin brothers. How did you not get 42? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. How do you not know that? Shame, 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 shame. So yeah, Neville climbed through the portrait hole, somehow, with his legs stuck together. And again, the common room, not the Great Hall. With what they recognized at once as the leg locker curse. They immediately recognized it as that. I mean, one, maybe because his legs were obviously locked together. Or was this spell already taught to them in a class? In one of their classes that we didn't get that lesson for. Maybe. That would seem... Was that something they had been just taught? We'll see if they just been taught this. He must have had to bunny hop all the way up to Gryffindor Tower. Up the stairs. With his legs stuck together. That's not easy. And if you got hit both hands on the banisters, lifting yourself up. But, man, everyone fell over laughing. Which kind of happens. Except Hermione, who leapt up and performed the counter curse. Unlike in the movie. In the movie, they just walk away. And with Percy standing right there too. And Percy doesn't do anything for Neville. I'm sorry, but Percy should immediately have acted. Not Hermione. Not this distraction of, well, finding out who Nicholas Flamel is. Not them running off, leaving Neville there, standing there to fall over. To shout out after them and then to fall over. And Percy just standing there, helping some other student with their homework or whatever, and just watching it happen. Horrible Percy. Horrible, horrible Percy. Not so perfect prefect Percy. Or as the French would say, pas perfecto prefect Percy. perfect prefect Percy. Past perfect prefect Percy. There you go. So Hermione performs a counter curse, and Neville's legs sprang apart, and he got to his feet, trembling. What happened? Hermione asked him, leading him over to sit with Harry and Ron. Malfoy, said Neville shakily. I met him outside the library. He said he'd been looking for someone to practice that on. So maybe Malfoy found this spell in the library, but also, how did Hermione, Ron, and Harry recognize it immediately? They had to have been just taught it. So I'm guessing Quirrell just taught this spell in his class that day or the day before or something. Go to Professor McGonagall, Hermione urged Neville. Report him. Neville shook his head. Tattletale. Or Hermione the Tattletale, and Neville the... You should tattle. I don't want more trouble, he mumbled. You've got to stand up to him, Neville. Got to stand up? I can't even stand at all. Got to stand up to him, Neville, said Ron. He's used to walking all over people, but that's no reason to lie down in front of him and make it easier. There's no need to tell me I'm not brave enough to be in Gryffindor. Malfoy's already done that. Neville choked out. Neville choked out. See, I mean, at least every time I've been around the phrase, somebody got choked out, it seems they're... I mean, not self-choking, that's a term I don't remember. Auto-asphyxiation. But... yeah... when you get choked out, that's you're in a bind, in a full Nelson or a half Nelson or something, whatever that's called, headlock, and you're passed out, not able to breathe, and passed out. Okay, I don't think that is what happened to Neville here. So that's not the right wording, JK. Harry felt in the pocket of his robes and pulled out a chocolate frog. Ah, here we go. Yeah, so in the movie they're just Neville or Ron is just trading, going through frogs, because apparently he somehow got a whole bunch and is eaten a whole bunch, and now he's looking through his cards that he's gotten. And it just happens to be, or he gets another Dumbledore. Dumbledore again! If Hermione got Harry a box of chocolate frogs for Christmas, maybe she also got Ron a box of chocolate frogs for Christmas, and that's what Ron was going through. And where he found his Dumbledore again, and where Harry finds his Dumbledore again. So Harry pulls out the last frog and gives it to Neville, who looked as though he might cry from being choked out. You're worth 12 of Malfoy, Harry said. 12 of them. 12! On the 12 worths of Malfoy, Harry gave to me. Harry gave to Neville a chocolate frog Hermione had given him. Really, sorry about that. Greatly. No, I'm not. Deal with it. Enjoy it. The Sorting Hat chose you for Gryffindor, didn't it? And where's Malfoy? In stinkin' Slytherin. Stinkin' Slytherin under the lake, where it's boggy and mossy and mucky. Where there's dead fish rotting and bathroom stuff getting flushed into the lake, along with Moaning Myrtle. Right on top of the Slytherin common room. Ew. How close do you think the Slytherin common room window under the lake is to the sewage outlet? How often do they see little bits of sewage going by? Oh, that's disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. Poor Slytherins, stinking Slytherins. Neville's lips twitched in a weak smile as he unwrapped the frog. Oh, thanks, Harry. I think I'll go to bed. Do you want the card? You collect them, don't you? Here we go! As Neville walked away, Harry looked at the famous wizard card. Dumbledore again, he said. He was the first one I ever... Huh? Dun dun dun! He gasped. He stared at the back of the card. Then he looked up at Ron and Hermione. I found him, he whispered. Sorry. I found him! I found Flamel. I told you I read the name somewhere before. I read it on the train coming here. Listen to this. Dumbledore's particularly famous for his defeat of the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945. For the discovery of the 12, here it is, 12 again, uses of dragon's blood, and his work on alchemy with his partner, Nicholas Flamel. Because he whispered that. Harry, did you put your name into the goblet of fire? Whispered. Sorry. Let's go back and do that right. I found him. I found Flamel. I told you I've read the name somewhere before. I read it on the train coming here. Listen to this. Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945, for the discovery of the 12 uses of dragon's blood, and his work on alchemy with his partner, Nicholas Flamel. Is that the way? Of course, again, not the way it's done in the movie. The movie is somewhere in between. Hermione jumped to her feet. She hadn't looked so excited since they'd gotten back the marks of their very first piece of homework. Their very first piece. Wow. Is it raining? If it's raining outside, I need to close my door. Yep, it is starting to rain. I need to go bring in some stuff, close up some stuff. I will be back shortly. Actually. All right. Okay. So Hermione's jumping up to get, because she's so excited, like she was when she got her first piece of homework back. That is crazy. Must have been 110%. Stay there, she said, and she sprinted up the stairs to the girls' dormitories. Harry and Ron barely had time to exchange mystified looks before she was dashing back, an enormous old book in her arms. Yeah, trying to remember what she did in the movie. think they changed locations. They read it, and then they changed locations, and then she pulls out the giant book. I never thought to look in here, she whispered excitedly. Should I? I never thought to look in here. I might need to check this. Is that set up? Not that button. Oops, sorry if this is noisy filters. Yeah, it's got the limiter on it. Okay. Oh, but it doesn't seem to be working. Limiter is set to 14. Wow, that doesn't make sense. Then why is it still... I don't know, it's still regularly pushing up into the less than... That's... I don't know. Okay, well, whatever. It's not a hard limit, apparently. I'll have to figure that out. I never thought to look in here, she whispered excitedly. I got this out of the library weeks ago for a bit of light reading. Light, said Ron, but Hermione told him to be quiet until she looked something up and started flicking frantically through the pages, muttering to herself. So, this giant book that she got for a bit of light reading, that she knows has mention of alchemy in it. And what... yeah, anyways, I might be starting to lose it. Might not actually get this done at once. We're gonna try. At last, she found what she was looking for. I knew it! I knew it! Are we allowed to speak yet? Said Ron grumpily. Hermione ignored him. Nicholas Flamel, she whispered dramatically, is the only known maker of the Sorcerer's Stone. This didn't quite have the effect she'd expected. The Sorcerer's Stone? Who's ever called it the Sorcerer's Stone? It's the Philosopher's Stone. It has always been the Philosopher's Stone. Because alchemy is a philosophy. It's a philosophical study of the chemical makeup of objects and how they can combine together to make other things. But there's the primary thing, the primary science used to describe alchemy is philosophy. Not chemistry, philosophy. Not sorcery, philosophy. It's not magic. It's a philosophy. It's an insight, a wisdom based on history and over 4,000 years on 6 different continents, I think it is, in all 6 continents besides Antarctica. There's ancient and there's old alchemy stuff. Ancient China, ancient India, Hebrew, going back to Abraham, especially Abraham, and then later Solomon. Those are the 2 of the originals of the Philosopher's Stone. Nick is not the first, and he's not the last to try to do it, to discuss doing it, or at least be accredited with it, like 2 or 3 centuries later. 2 centuries later, yeah, in the 1600s, Nicholas was finally given the story about having created the Philosopher's Stone and being wealthy and immortal. Not for 2 centuries after his death, which, if. But the writings that attribute the creation of the Philosopher's Stone to Nicholas Flamel are written by somebody else using a pen name and some other things, kind of maybe sketch, unreliable sources, and yeah, it's some interesting stuff. The actual history of alchemy and going back. And I haven't found as much as I would like to find yet, but I am still searching. I'm still looking for more and more histories on stuff. Getting into the real old stuff. I have read the Keys of Solomon and part of the Book of Abraham. And those is really, really interesting. And I think the Grimoire is another one of those that discusses it, or is it? Yeah. At least looked at it. Fun, interesting stuff. And that's probably what Hermione has grabbed, is one of the books that is attributed to Flamel, or that describes Flamel, and why she didn't actually start reading it or didn't remember that it was there. Don't know. She just hadn't gotten to that part yet, maybe. In her light reading on this huge book. The what? Honestly, don't you two read? Look, read that here. Read that there. She pushed the book toward them, and Harry and Ron read. Harry and Ron read, not Hermione reading it to them, but Harry and Ron had to read it to themselves, each on their own. Now, I didn't find anything that was written in the same way that J.K. has written this entry for this book within her books. The ancient study of alchemy is concerned with the making of the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance with astonishing powers. The stone will transform any metal into pure gold? No, it will not. Not any metal. And actually, I'll get to in a moment. It also produces the elixir of life, which will make the drinker immortal. No. Okay, let's address this here. This is some of the things that we'll be diving into with Bibliobabuli when we get to this chapter. Is that first they were trying to figure out how to convert something into gold. Anything. Best ideas were mercury and mercury mixed with sulfur. Mercury mixed with sulfur was one of the things they tried. Obviously didn't work. Lead, I don't remember how they were modifying the lead or trying to modify the lead. Then there was a barite, I think, something like that, that they mixed with, oh shoot, I just reread this. There's a problem with not taking notes. I think it was also, mixing with a couple things, and ultimately, instead of creating gold, created glow in the dark. Created a glow in the dark material that we now use, or maybe it's been changed since then, but the initial glow in the dark material was an attempt to turn metals into gold. Nobody could figure it out how. So then they came up with the idea of maybe there's something else we need in order to make this process work. And that's where the stone comes into play. It's that extra item that they had to try to figure out how to create, and in order to then create, or to use that stone as a magical device type thing, to transform the certain metals, only certain metals, into gold. And then also to create the elixir of life out of the stone while it's being, and as a byproduct. Because the idea being that gold is an eternal metal. It doesn't rust, it doesn't decay or corrode. It's a perfect metal. And so because gold is immortal, assumed there must be something within the process to make gold immortal that could make a person immortal. So there you go. There is your Philosopher's Stone lesson, education on alchemy. What the real practice of alchemy is, not what's just listed here. Not what JK gives. Which is okay, because she doesn't need to give all of that, like I just did. But there you have it. There have been many reports of the Philosopher's Stone over the centuries, but the only stone currently in existence belongs to Mr. Nicholas Flamel. Maybe. There should be at least 2 others after him. His names I can't remember. One of them before, in the 9th century, whereas Flamel is 14th century, was a guy named Jagar. I can't remember the rest of his names, but he wrote all his instructions down in such a complicated way that is where we get the term gibberish. Gibberish comes from the story of the Philosopher's Stone. Attempts from alchemy and the attempts for the Philosopher's Stone. The more you know. Nicholas Flamel, the noted alchemist and opera lover. Because the reason that is included is because one of the reports, the eyewitness reports of seeing Flamel more recently, in the 17th or 18th century. I think it was 18th century. Actually, might have been 19th. 18th or 19th century. They were seen attending an opera. And so that was they stepped out of hiding to go to this opera because they loved it so much. And that's why it's mentioned here. That's the level of research in little things that JK found and that I found. But it leads the credence to, not that credence, justification or credence to there being some validity to Nicholas Flamel currently existing, still being alive, at least at some point in time, at least as of 91, because I guess in 92 actually, where they're at now, right? Yeah, there'd be, they started in 91, 92 is when this book takes place, the story takes place. Yeah. Because Harry was born in 80, so he's 11 in 91. We're there. We've done the math right. So at 665, assuming the book magically... okay, we're starting to get ahead of ourselves. Okay, Nicholas Flamel, who... Okay, the noted alchemist and opera lover. I didn't see what opera it was, but it was in Paris. Mr. Flamel, who celebrated his 665th birthday last year, assuming that the book magically updates. I should have double-checked his birth date. It was in 1338? Was it for... I think that's what it was. So he died in 1418, at 85, in his 80s, and got married in 1360 something, at the age of 38. He got married at 38. That's what I figured out the math was. So maybe he was born in 1330, married in 1368, died supposedly in 1418 was. So 1330. Oh gosh. Yeah. That puts... No. It's 1335, 95. That would put it in 1995. If he was born in 1330. So somewhere the math is wrong. Probably JK's math is wrong because she wanted it to be one... It said last year he was 665, meaning this year he would be 666. Or coming up on 666 when he dies, when he stops taking the elixir of life. He enjoys a quiet life in Devon. Devon? Isn't Devon in a British city? Or is it Devon in France? I don't think... Devon sounds a lot more British than French. He's supposed to have lived in Paris. Why would he be living in England? Well, I mean, I guess because he's working on alchemy with his partner Albus Dumbledore. Okay, with his wife Perenelle, 658. See? Hermione said Hermione, when Harry and Ron had finished. The dog must be guarding Flamel's... Oh, here it goes. Philosopher's Stone. I bet he asked Dumbledore to keep it safe for him, because they're friends, and he knew someone was after it. That's why they wanted the stone moved out of Gringotts, to make sure it don't get stolen. Okay. We'll go with a water. Some water. A stone that makes gold and stops you from ever dying, said Harry. No wonder Snape's after it. Anyone would want it. Wait, at least in this, we don't get Ron saying immortal and Hermione having to explain what immortal means. I know what it means. Why do the movies have to make Ron so stupid? Except for chess. That's the one thing he did well. And yet in the books, there's a lot he does quite well. Book Ron is way better than movie Ron. A stone that makes... Yeah, but no wonder Snape's after it. Anyone would want it. Yeah. And no wonder we couldn't find Flamel. Oh, excuse me, ouch. And no wonder we couldn't find Flamel in the study of recent developments in wizardry, because it's not recent. He's not exactly recent, said Ron, if he's 665, almost, in a couple years. The next morning, in defense against the Dark Arts, while copying down different ways of treating werewolf bites. Different ways of treating werewolf bites. This is something should be paying attention to. Or known. Ron, you especially should pay attention to this so you can save Lavender. Could have saved Lavender, Ron, if you had paid attention in this class instead of not discussing the Philosopher's Stone. Lavender Brown might not have died. Fucking Greyback. Harry and Ron were still discussing what they'd do with the Philosopher's Stone if they'd had one. What was that about the mirror? It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. That's the line. Oh, man. And here they are, dwelling on the dream of getting the Sorcerer's Stone. Excuse me, the Philosopher's Stone. Sorry for that mistake. It wasn't until Ron said he'd buy his own Quidditch team that Harry remembered about Snape and the coming match. So, wow. We got... As they come in after the Quidditch practice, Harry comes in looking morose, sees Ron and Hermione playing chess. Ron says, "Don't bother me, I'm concentrating." It gets interrupted in trying to say concentrating. Sees Harry looking shocked and stunned. Oh, wait. No, he does explain. Yeah, he never mind. He did explain. Don't play. Pretend you break your leg. Really break your leg. Yeah. Okay. So we weren't quite completely interrupted when Neville came in, but pretty close. But then Neville certainly distracted Harry from Snape. So once again, the loyalty of friendship and love, a loving thing that Harry did in giving Neville the frog and from Malfoy's leg locker curse. And then, of course, the actually finding Nicholas Flamel's name, totally drove Snape out of Harry's mind. Totally drove that evil man out of Harry's mind. And yes, I said Snape is evil. Because he acts that way. He may have a very soft heart deep down, but he still, most of the time, chose to live a life of cruelty, of bullying students. And not just Harry. And not just Neville. And not just Hermione. But even the Weasley twins, Fred and George, know that Snape's not nice to most people. I think even Percy knows this. Snape is just not a nice acting man. He's too much like his father. Now there's the can of worms. Yep. I'm going to play, Harry told Ron and Hermione. If I don't, all the Slytherins will think I'm just too scared to face Snape. I'll show them. I'll wipe the smiles off their faces if we win. It'll wipe the smiles, really. Bleh. It'll really wipe the smiles off their faces if we win. I suppose I don't need to be reading it exactly word for word since I'm doing a commentary anyways. I can kind of paraphrase some of these things, right? Just as long as we're not wiping you off the field, said Hermione. Yeah. They are really quite paranoid about Snape, about how Snape is going to act. They see Snape as being so unfair so often that they think he's going to be unfair in the Quidditch match. Or I should say, they just know he's going to be unfair in the Quidditch match, and even potentially dangerous. And actually, considering last time, and they believe that Snape was actively trying to not to curse Harry off of the broom, yeah, there's definite concern here. I mean, though, me, if I were Snape, instead of deciding to referee the match, I would get Quirrell. I would either be sitting next to Quirrell in the stands, or figure out some way to be talking to Quirrell in the castle during the match, to keep Quirrell from going to the game. That would be far better and far more normal than Snape out of the blue deciding he was going to referee the Quidditch match instead of Madam Hooch, who, in all fairness, was pretty blind during that game, not seeing that Harry's broom was going crazy and not doing anything about it. Madam Hooch is pretty bad. So, yeah, maybe it is good to have Snape as referee instead. But I think there's got to be somebody else. Besides one of the head teachers of one of the houses that is playing in the game. You can't have a referee that is that biased toward one of the teams. I mean, that's just, no, you can't do that. As the match drew nearer, however, Harry became more and more nervous, whatever he told Ron and Hermione, because apparently it's still got a couple days. Maybe even a week or two to go. The rest of the team wasn't too calm either. The idea of overtaking Slytherin in the House Championship was wonderful. No one had done it in 7 years. But would they be allowed to with such a biased referee? That's the question. Has Snape ensured that Slytherin has won the House Championship for the last 7 years. Has Snape cheated that much? Probably. Although this is... I guess the House Championship is Quidditch. Or is it... I don't know, this is the Quidditch Cup and the House Championship, which is separate, but yet still somehow impactful on the house points, which seems kind of ridiculous. I don't know. And I'm sure it's not a 1-to-1 scale for the amount of points you scored during the game, especially if you, for the victory, the catching the snitch, would gain you that many house points. I don't think so. That would get a bit crazy. And I think there'd be a lot more points at the end of the year for each house. Unless all 4 of them lost a lot of points from random things. I doubt it. I actually am unfortunately needing to take a bit of a break. So I will be hopefully back momentarily. Harry didn't know whether he was imagining it or not, because imagination is a bad thing. Because you just don't approve of imagination. Right, Vernon? But he seemed to be running into Snape wherever he went. At times, he even wondered whether Snape was following him, trying to catch him on his own. Is Snape trying to tell Harry something? Wanting to get Harry by himself without anybody else around so he can tell him a secret? So that Snape can give Harry a warning about Quirrell? Wholesome Snape? That could be interesting. That's an interesting thought there. Perhaps. Potions lessons were turning into a sort of weekly torture. Snape was so horrible to Harry. Well, maybe he's not trying to give Harry a warning, or at least he's still continuing to put on the front in public around others, and so he's looking for Harry alone so that he can be nice without anybody else knowing. But then it's good luck today, Potter. Wait. Well, no, that was for the first Quidditch match after the troll. That explains the limp. Or the blood. That explains the blood. Yeah. And back to here, Harry's mind. Could Snape possibly know they'd found out about the Philosopher's Stone? Harry didn't see how he could. Yet he sometimes had the horrible feeling that Snape could read minds. The mind is not a book that can be opened and read at leisure, Potter. No. It is not the way of things. That's book 6. It's a ways to go. Or is that? Yeah, that's gotta be 6. No, that's gotta be 7. That's 5. Is it? Remedial potions. He said, he's told him he's supposed to be taking remedial potions, so it's gotta be 5. Oh yeah, most of all, do not tell Umbridge what we're actually doing. Yeah, So it is book 5 that we get Snape saying that the mind is not a book that can be opened and read at will, or something along those lines. He says. Harry knew when they wished him good luck outside the locker rooms the next afternoon that Ron and Hermione were wondering whether they would ever see him alive again. Because he's not even going to make it out of the locker room. Not even onto the pitch. This wasn't what you would call comforting. Yeah. Harry hardly heard a word of Wood's pep talk as he pulled on his Quidditch robes. So everybody, how much is everybody changing in there together? Because it's mixed teams. I don't know. And I think, and later we get Percy trying to drown himself in the showers. So, yeah. And Harry picks up his Nimbus 2000. Always have to call it the Nimbus 2000. Because it's not just a broom. It's not just any broom. That's a Nimbus 2000. It's the fastest Malta yet. I think I'm mixing up some things, because Ron says that's not just any broomstick. He's referring to the firebolt in the movies. Actually, he says it in the book to Malfoy. And then Flitwick comes up and says, "Yep, I heard about all the special circumstances. What model is it?" "It's a firebolt." "Ah, excellent, excellent." Yep. And okay, but we got something really exciting coming up. I just remembered. Ron and Hermione, meanwhile, had found a place in the stands next to Neville. Good old Neville, who couldn't understand why they looked so grim and worried, or why they both brought their wands. I mean, are they not supposed to bring their wands to the games? Too much temptation to use them? Or for some reason, do they not normally keep their wands with them, like, always? Like, why wouldn't you? Why would you leave something like that behind? Anywhere? I wouldn't. If I had a wand, it would be on my person almost always. Maybe when I'm sleeping, I might figure out how to keep it under my pillow without breaking it. Because you would not want to break a wand under your head. I mean, the pillow might help a little bit, but typically should. I mean, Ron's doesn't, and I guess Harry's doesn't when they break, but and the Elder Wand in the movie, when Harry breaks that in half, which actually I think is better than what he does in the books. A lot better, a lot more guaranteed. Sorry, what he does in the book is stupid. If I die undefeated, the wand's power will die with me. But if you happen to be defeated, then the wand's power will continue. And if you're going to be an Auror, Harry, you are likely, at some point, to be defeated. Or at least disarmed, to the point of losing the Elder Wand. Not smart. But we are nowhere near there yet. Nowhere near. Yeah. So they brought their wands to the match, which is apparently unusual. Little did Harry know that Ron and Hermione had secretly been practicing the leg locker curse on each other. They'd gotten the idea from Malfoy using it on Neville, obviously, and were ready to use it on Snape if he showed any sign of wanting to hurt Harry. Can you imagine being on a broom, flying, and then suddenly you're hit with a leg locker curse? Ouch. That would, because it squishes your legs together on that stick. And so that's gonna leave some bruises and maybe some crushed nuts. Ouch. That would be absolutely horrible. Now, don't forget, it's locomotor mortis. Trying to say that with a British accent, it's not easy. Which, of course, locomotor mortis is locomotion, movement, mortis, death. The movement, death, the death of movement, the ending of motion, which I think maybe would be the full body bind curse, not just the leg binding curse. And Hermione is muttering as Ron slips his wand up his sleeve. Suppose it's better than your back pocket. I know, Ron snapped. Don't nag. Yeah, Ron, well, the reader doesn't know, and the reader's gotta know. So Hermione was telling us, the reader, that it is locomotor mortis. Back in the locker room. Oh, so there we get a scene of the book where Harry is not present. Things happening when Harry's not around. Just take note of that. There will be a test later. Back in the locker room, Harry had taken, or Wood had Harry taken, I'm getting all tongue twisted, or my words all twisted up, despite having the dyslexic font on my Kindle. I'm still getting the words twisted and turned. Maybe that's unrelated. Wood had taken Harry aside. Don't want to pressure you, Potter, but if we ever needed an early capture of the snitch, it's now. Finish the game before Snape can favor Hufflepuff too much. Yeah. That he definitely ends up doing, but spoilers! Excuse me. The whole school's out there, said Fred Weasley, peering out of the door. Even, blimey, Dumbledore's come to watch. It's apparently unusual. Another unusual thing happening in this game. Snape's refereeing, Dumbledore's in the stands. I wonder if Dumbledore is sitting near Quirrell. Harry's heart did a somersault. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. That would really, really, really hurt. Dumbledore, he said, dashing to the door to make sure, because Fred could be wrong. Fred could be joking. Be another one of Fred's jokes. Fred was right. There was no mistaking that silver beard. Harry could have laughed out loud with relief. He was safe. There was simply no way that Quirrell would dare to try to hurt him if Dumbledore was watching. Oops, sorry. He was safe. There was simply no way that Snape would dare try to hurt him if Dumbledore was watching. Yes. And Snape wouldn't do so anyways. But try to hurt a student? Never. Perhaps that was why Snape was looking so angry as the teams marched onto the field, something that Ron noticed too. Going back a moment, what did I say? Snape wouldn't hurt a student. The movie 3 with Snape standing there protecting the students, the 3 from Lupin in werewolf form, doesn't happen in the books. No. Snape's not doing that. Snape is unconscious in that point. Floating in the air, with a few bruises and twigs on his head from bumping into the top of the caves, and some mud on his face, probably, too. Haha. I've never seen Snape look so mean, he told Hermione. Look, they're off. Ouch! Oops. They're off. Ouch! Someone had poked Ron in the back of the head. It was Malfoy. And here we get to the exciting part. Oh, sorry, Weasley. Didn't see you there. Malfoy grinned broadly as Crabbe and Goyle. Okay, why are they mixed? Why are the Slytherins sitting with the Gryffindors? Why? I mean, unless the stands are very, very, very different than the movies. I mean, exceedingly. Like our normal bleachers, just going around the stadium. Much more like the Dragon Pit in Goblet of Fire, the way those stands are set up. That would make a lot more sense. And the stands at the maze, which I guess the maze and I think the Dragon Pit too is supposed to be the Quidditch field. I don't remember what point the maze starts growing on the pitch. Yeah. But that is book 3 and 4. Just book 4, because mentioning it through. Anyways, yeah. Wonder how long Potter's going to stay on his broom this time. Anyone want to bet? What about you, Weasley? Ron didn't answer, because he can't bet anything, just in case he loses. Snape had just awarded Hufflepuff a penalty because George Weasley had hit a bludger at Snape. Well, if you hit a bludger towards the referee, yeah, that's gonna be a penalty. That's not without reason. Hermione, who had all her fingers crossed in her lap, was squinting fixedly at Harry. She's trying to cast a spell, not blinking, who was circling the game like a hawk, looking for the snitch. You know how I think they choose people for the Gryffindor team, said Malfoy loudly a few minutes later, as Snape awarded Hufflepuff another penalty for no reason at all. You sure? Oh, and yeah, here's things going on without Harry being present, outside of Harry's perspective. See, there's Potter, who's got no parents. Then there's the Weasleys, who've got no money. What about Wood, who's got no talent, also. And, but Angelina, Katie Bell, and Alicia Spinette. Angelina Johnson, Katie Bell, and Alicia Spinette. They've, well, got dope penises. But you should be on the team, Longbottom. You've got no brains. Neville went bright red, but turned in his seat to face Malfoy. I'm worth 12 of you, Malfoy, he stammered. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle howled with laughter, but Ron, still not daring to take his eyes off the game, said, You tell him, Neville. Longbottom, if brains were gold, you'd be poorer than the Weasleys, and that's saying something. And here it comes. Ron's nerves were already stretched to the breaking point with anxiety about Harry. I'm warning you, Malfoy. One more word. Oh, wait, I guess I'm a little early still yet. Ron, said Hermione suddenly. Harry! What? Where? Harry had suddenly gone into a spectacular dive, which drew gasps and cheers from the crowd. Hermione stood up, her fingers crossed in her mouth, as Harry streaked toward the ground like a bullet. You're in luck, Weasley. Potter's obviously spotted some money on the ground, said Malfoy. Here it is. Ron snapped. Before Malfoy knew what was happening, Ron was on top of him, wrestling him to the ground. Neville hesitated, then clambered over the back of his seat to help. Ha 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 ha! There you go. Come on, Harry! Hermione screamed, leaping onto her seat to watch as Harry sped straight at Snape. She didn't even notice Malfoy and Ron rolling around under her seat, or the scuffles and the yelps coming from the whirl of fists that was Neville, Crabbe, and Goyle. Up in the air, Junior Boardman. Snape turned on his broomstick just in time to see something scarlet shoot past him, missing him by inches. The next second, Harry had pulled out of his dive, his arm raised in triumph, the snitch clutched in his hand. Yeah. The stands erupted. The stands erupted, not the crowd. The stands erupted like a volcano. And everyone died. It had to be a record. No one could ever remember the snitch being caught so quickly, despite there being two penalty shots at least taken, and just a period of other time, and some other things. So, I mean, 5-10 minutes. It's got to be at least 5 to 10 minutes in that ballpark. Maybe 15. But for it to be less than 5 minutes, not likely. Ron, where are you? The game's over. Harry's won. We've won. Gryffindor's in the lead, shrieked Hermione. Oh, but did they get enough goals to allow that to happen? Or did they just get a set number of points for winning? Maybe that's it. Get 25 points for winning, or 50 points for winning, something, I don't know, 100 points for winning. Then you get too much. Shrieked, okay, we're in the lead, Gryffindor's in the lead, shrieked Hermione, dancing up and down on her seat and hugging Pavarti Patil in the front row. Where's Padma? Probably not at the game, because she's a Ravenclaw. But, you remember, Pavarti is Hermione's roommate. Don't forget that. Hermione has to share a dormitory with Pavarti and Lavender Brown. And I'm not sure if I don't remember if there is another one right now, at least named. What is... It's gotta be the fridge, I guess. Yeah, it's not... I don't know. Fan blowing that shouldn't be blowing. Or at least, it sounds different than it should sound. Anyway, sorry. Harry jumped off his broom a foot from the ground. He couldn't believe it. He'd done it. The game was over. It had barely lasted 5 minutes. There we go. As Gryffindors came spilling out onto the field, he saw Snape land nearby, white-faced and tight-lipped, and getting ready to say something. "Well done, Potter. Just like your father. You actually were better than him." Then Harry felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up into Dumbledore's smiling face. Man, so, wait. As Gryffindors came spilling onto the field, he saw Snape land nearby, and Dumbledore's also there, just as quickly. Again, there is no way that the stands around the Quidditch pitch can be remotely like they are in the movies. No way. Just doesn't logistically work for everything else. "Well done," said Dumbledore quietly. Oh, excuse me. "Well done." "Well done." Well done, well done. So that only Harry could hear. Nice to hear, excuse me. "Nice to see you haven't been brooding about that mirror. Been keeping busy? Excellent." We get some ellipses in here. That's usually for other things going on. Maybe there's some other cheers going on from other people, the other Gryffindors around. That's what the 3 dots that we get are. See at the top there you get the 3 dots, and that's on the previous page too. 3 times we get 3 dots. And Snape spat bitterly on the ground. Yep. Now. Harry left the locker room alone some time later. Why? To take his Nimbus 2000 back to the broom shed. Not just to take his broom back, but to take his Nimbus 2000. So always got to mention the name of it. He couldn't ever remember feeling happier. It's not the first time on a broom. Is that the movie? Yeah, I think that was just a movieism. And I don't remember what the book did first. Maybe the book did that too. We'll get there someday. And the third book, he'd really done something to be proud of now. No one could say he was just a famous name anymore. No, he's just good at Quidditch. Good at flying on a broom and catching a small ball. Not really that difficult. He's got good eyes, despite his glasses. The evening air had never smelled so sweet. So it's now evening. Usually, the Quidditch games start in like 10, isn't it? Isn't 10 or 11? Wasn't that when we later get the Quidditch game's starting, like when Ron's playing on the team, and Lavender wishes him good luck, and no, Luna's not commentating that match, because the match that Luna commentates, Ron is in the hospital. And McLagan is playing, right? McLagan or McCormick. One of the two. Either way, terrible. Again, long time from now. But this is evening. And so the match lasted like 5 minutes. And now we're from a brunch game, a game that should have started in the mid-morning, maybe early afternoon. So now evening. Okay. It is January, maybe February. And we're in England, so okay. Could be short days. We'll go with it's still 3 o'clock and it's evening. The evening air light, because it's 3 o'clock in the winter. That's what we're gonna go with. He walked over the damp grass, reliving the last hour in his head, which was a happy blur. Gryffindors running to lift him onto their shoulders, Ron and Hermione in the distance, jumping up and down, Ron cheering through a heavy nosebleed. Harry had reached the shed. He leaned against the wooden door and looked up at Hogwarts, with its windows glowing red in the setting sun. All alone. He's doing this all alone. Like, everybody's left him. No. After hoisting him up, then they let him get into the locker room, and then he's completely alone. The last one out of the locker room. How did Wood not allow Harry to be the last one? Not even the girls should have allowed Harry to be the last one. They should have dragged him back up to all celebrate. This is, one of the most ridiculous parts of the story, actually. This whole scene here, this whole upcoming section. Gryffindor in the lead. He'd done it. He'd shown Snape. ... And speaking of Snape, ... A hooded figure came swiftly down the front steps of the castle, clearly not wanting to be seen. It walked as fast as possible toward the Forbidden Forest. Harry's victory faded from his mind as he watched. He recognized the figure's prowling walk. Snape, sneaking into the forest while everyone else was at dinner. What was going on? Okay, so not 3, it must be 5 or 6, but still. This is time is not balancing out here as it should be. Harry jumped back on his Nimbus 2000 and took off. Seriously. Guess it's working. Gliding silently over the castle, he saw Snape enter the forest at a run. He followed. Harry had to fly over the castle in order to follow Snape from the castle to the forest. He saw him at a Quidditch pitch. The layout here is a little bit baffling. The trees were so thick he couldn't see where Snape had gone. Just not minding your own business. He flew in circles, lower and lower, brushing the top branches of trees until he heard voices. He glided toward them and landed noiselessly in a towering beech tree. That's B-E-E, not B-E-A. He climbed carefully along one of the branches, holding tight to his broomstick, trying to see through the leaves. Okay, in a beech tree, if I recall right, beech trees are not that thick. They're not huge trees. Wouldn't imagine him being able to walk on one of the branches high in this tree. Below, in a shadowy clearing, stood Snape. But he wasn't alone. Quirrell was there too. Harry couldn't make out the look on his face, but he was stuttering worse than ever. Harry strained to catch what they were saying. ... Don't know why you wanted to meet out here to meet here of all places, Severus ... Oh, I thought we'd keep this private. Oh, sorry, there was no extra comment there. Oh, I thought we'd keep this private, said Snape, his voice icy. Students aren't supposed to know about the Philosopher's Stone, after all. Harry leaned forward. Quirrell was mumbling something. Snape interrupted him. Have you found out how to get past that beast of Hagrid's yet? But Severus, You don't want me as your enemy, Quirrell, said Snape, taking a step toward him. I don't know what you... You know perfectly well what I mean. No. Maybe an owl hooted loudly, and Harry nearly fell out of the tree. He steadied himself in time to hear Snape say, dash. Like it suddenly switched from ... to dashes. Maybe it's a copy thing. The ebook. Your little bit of hocus pocus. I'm waiting. So a spell that Snape needs doesn't know that Quirrell does. That he assumes Quirrell knows. But I don't... Very well. Snape cut in. We'll have another little chat soon when you've had a time to think things over. To think things over. You really have to go say it that way. Well, maybe. I had another wording for it. No, I can't remember what the better wording is. That is. There's better ways of saying this. When you've had time to think things over and decide where your loyalties lie. He threw his cloak over his head and strode out of the clearing. It's not getting down to temperatures. My freezer's not getting cold. He threw his cloak over his head and strode out of the clearing. It was almost dark now, but Harry could see Quirrell standing quite still, as though he were petrified. Harry, where have you been? Hermione squeaked. Harry, where have you been? Hermione squeaked. We won! You won! We won! Shouted Ron, thumping Harry on the back. And I gave Malfoy a black eye. There it is. Ron punches a Malfoy. There we get the official Ron punched a Malfoy, or the evidence of it, and you gave him a black eye. We got them wrestling, but like I said, everybody gets to punch a Malfoy, and it's glorious every time it happens. We get several more times to come. Next book is the best one. Ah, yes. And Neville tried to take on Crabbe and Goyle, single-handed. He's still out cold, but Madame Pomfrey says he'll be all right. Because Neville got choked out. Neville got choked out, and so he's in the hospital. Because that's what happens when you get choked out. He'll be all right. Talk about showing Slytherin. Everyone's waiting for you in the common room. We're having a party. Fred and George stole some cakes and stuff from the kitchens. Just like Harry stole downstairs, right? That's a callback to Chapter 2, I believe. Chapter 2, Chapter 3? Must be Chapter 3. Yeah, gotta be Chapter 3. Harry stealing downstairs because he would have to have already gotten his letters and moved up to the second bedroom, to Dudley's second bedroom. With the television set that Dudley had put his foot through, the broken cine camera, and the empty bird cage that Dudley had traded the bird for a real working air rifle. Or something like that, or for an air rifle which he sat on and bent the end on, which is where Hagrid does that. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Never mind that now. Never mind the party, said Harry breathlessly. Let's find an empty room. You wait till you hear this. He made sure Peeves wasn't inside before shutting the door behind them. Then he told them what he'd seen and heard. So we were right. It is the Sorcerer's Stone, and Snape's trying to force Quirrell to help him get it. He asked if he knew how to get past Fluffy, and he said something about Quirrell's hocus pocus. I reckon there are other things guarding the stone apart from Fluffy. Loads of enchantments, probably, and Quirrell would have done some anti-dark arts spell that Snape needs to break through. Sounds more like Snape is trying to figure out if Quirrell knows how to get past Fluffy. And that would be the anti-dark arts thing that Quirrell needs to do, so you get past Fluffy. Not because Quirrell's protection on the stone is the troll. What Quirrell adds to the stone protection is a troll. So what do you need Hocus Pocus for that? No. But, of course, the trio don't know that. So, you mean the stone's only safe as long as Quirrell stands up to Snape? Said Hermione in alarm. It'll be gone by next Tuesday. Uh-oh. Tuesday! Tuesday. That's a Star Trek Generations reference. Said Ron. Hey, will ya look at that? We finished a commentated chapter reading in one day. We did it. Success. 1 day read for commentary. It didn't take me months and months. And granted, it took me months and months to be able to be stable enough to read it. I think the last one I actually uploaded 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. But at least this one, I managed to get recorded in a single day. So it's not going to be months, several more months. It's not going to be 6 months for this to come out. So So I'm going to, and because I'm plugged in, I'm in a campground for my last night in the campground. I've had a nice week. It was only going to be one night, then it's turned out to be a full week thanks to some support from family and friends, mainly friends, through Patreon. Join my Patreon. It is, if I forget to put a link in the description, if it's not down there, or on my main page, it is patreon.com/WilliamsRDan, or if it has to have a user or whatever the thing is. I'm WilliamsRDan. Same as, oh shoot, I don't have my overlay on this. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Where do I have that? Overlay scene. Okay, that should be, what is that? Sorry about that. Okay, let's find out where that was supposed to be. Grab my scene, and overlay scene. That is supposed to be there. Sorry about that. There. So there is the Williams art. Oops, I'm off the screen, off the camera. WilliamsRDan. That was my Patreon. You will find that. Please join. It would be hugely appreciated. Help me get campsites where I can hopefully plug in, have electricity, and be working on things later into the evening at all hours. Not just when there is sunlight, which there really hasn't been much of lately. And as it is October 13th, there won't be much for the foreseeable months to come. Not looking forward to the upcoming weather. Not sure how I'm getting through it because I've lost my shelter that I had last year due to the neighbors. Can no longer visit my parents because the neighbors have been complaining too much. Or a single neighbor that got called out on stuff. Long stories. You don't need it. Suffice to say, join my Patreon, please, so that I can have campsites in my RV. Yes, I live in an RV on the side of the road usually. And it would be very helpful to be able to use campsites. Have a couple more days at a different campground where I don't have power, no hookups, but hopefully I'll be able to get enough sunlight, or at least just to manage and to have some fun, do some hiking, maybe. And yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to try to do the clean reading of this chapter out in nature somewhere, possibly even out on the bay. That is the goal at the moment, is to go out onto the bay and be on the water while reading the chapter, because I think that'll be fun. It's maybe not the most water chapter, but to be reading out on the water would be kind of nice. We shall see if that actually manages to happen tomorrow, or at all, or if I end up just finding some nice bush to read at. Maybe I could even read at my campsite that I'm be coming into, because it's a good one. Been there before. Actually, the last time I went to that campground, I've stayed at that same site that I'm getting. Anyways, thank you for joining me. Hopefully it won't take too long to get out the next couple, and then we'll have, hopefully, get in talks with Bibliobabuli and be able to arrange something consistently and be in places where I can be consistent. And we're going to do another deep dive, commentated readings just like this, but even more. She's even more of a Harry Potter nut than I am, and I mean that in the best of ways. So that'll be exciting. Have a collaboration. So if you're new here, like, comment, subscribe. We get a fair few number of views and not a lot of subscribers, so join, especially if you've made it all the way to the end. Oh, a single day. We did it in a single day. Yeah! Huge success. That's a victory there. Catch you on the flip side. May the chaos of your existence be beneficial. Wizard on.